Hello and welcome to another episode of the Canterbury NRL podcast. We're on somewhat of a roll, and earlier in the week we had one special guest, but today we've got another special guest coming in here to talk rugby league, Bulldogs, and yeah, again, everything rugby league. So thank you. If you're new, please be sure to subscribe, like the video. If you're a return, like the video, share it with your friends, share it with your mates. Dibbo is here as usual, and I'd love to extend a very, very warm and lovely welcome to Darcie McDonald on the Kennel podcast. Welcome, Darcie.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It's a pleasure. I really appreciate you taking the time out.
My pleasure. Pleasure's all mine.
I feel privileged sitting
here. No, pleasure's all mine.
So, you know, Darcie, you've sort of done a lot of things in rugby league. You've got that rugby league heritage, I would say. You're a Bulldogs cheerleader. Now you work for Fox League. But I guess I want to start with, just tell us a bit about how you came to support the Bulldogs.
So my family, it goes all the way back to my grandfather. He is from Ireland. When he moved over to Australia, lived in Roselands, was one of the very first, one of the original, I don't know if it was season ticket holders or members, but it was one of the original members, I say, at Belmore Sports Ground.
Berry.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Jeez,
and he would take my mum to the games. So my mum grew up following the Bulldogs and going to the Bulldogs games. She met my dad. My dad actually comes from a Tigers supporter family, but he tells me he was always a Bulldogs fan, but I reckon happy wife, happy life.
Had no choice.
Yeah, no choice. And it's just gone from there. Like we are, when I say die hard, I mean die hard. Like my family home has memorabilia everywhere. We grew up, my childhood was going to Bulldogs games every single weekend. We were members. My parents have been members for over 30 years. We went to every home game. We've been to away games. We've been to Canberra, Melbourne. My parents have been to New Zealand.
Whoa.
It gets worse.
England World Club Challenge?
No, we haven't been that far.
Oh.
But my parents were sponsors for a little bit, so they were
wow.
they were corporate partners, and then they were player sponsors. So I think they had Josh Morris one year. I want to say Tony Williams another year, and Greg Eastwood one year.
Wow.
And then, this is where it gets real crazy. We have a family bulldog, an actual bulldog, and he's from the bloodline of the mascot.
Wow.
That is, ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty die-hard Bulldogs.
It's kind of
quite literally.
It's kind of embarrassing when people ask how big of a fan are you? I'm like,
I think it's as good as it gets.
I have a Bulldog from the bloodline of the actual
I think it doesn't
Bulldog.
get any better.
You know what? It's so funny, the story how we got the Bulldog. So I don't believe she's still supplying the mascots, but there was this lovely lady called Narelle, and any rusted on kind of fan would remember her if they saw her. And Narelle bred Arnold. I'm going back to the OGs, and we had an Aussie Bulldog back in the day, and his name was, we named him Willie after Willie Mason. We got him in 2004. Sadly, Willie Mason left the club, so we decided it was now Willie.
He's back now,
Willie Tonga.
so back now. He's back now. So.
But when he passed away, my mum was like, if we get another dog, it has to be a British Bulldog, and it has to be from the mascot bloodline. And so when we were ready to get another dog, I reached out to Narelle, who I'd known from cheerleading days, and she had a litter. And we actually, I don't know if you guys would remember the mascot Chase.
Yes.
So I've got Chase's son.
Oh, wow.
That is
die-hard.
It is blue and white blood.
Yeah. His name's Keith. He's actually named after Keith Richards, but his middle name is Mortimer. And I have this crazy story. When we first got him, we one day we picking up my brother from the train station, and we thought, we're right near the Warrenora Cemetery. Let's go and visit my grandfather. He passed away in 2004.
Oh, grand final.
I know, yeah.
Jeez.
Wait, did he get to watch the grand final?
He didn't. Yeah, he didn't. He passed away in May, but when I was we'll get to it, but when I was at the grand final, I was like looking up at the sky, being like, Papa, if you're around, make something happen. But we took Keith to the cemetery to meet my Papa, and I'm not kidding. The cemetery was empty, and then all of a sudden, this elderly couple just came out of nowhere. They had a bulldog. Guess what its name was? Mortimer. because they were Bulldogs
You're
fans too.
joking.
I swear on my papa's grave. Like, is that not the craziest thing ever?
That is pretty trippy. So
It
it's
is
like
trippy.
it has to be Keith Mortimer.
Yeah, Keith Mortimer McDonald is his full name. He has an Instagram.
Oh, wow.
He does. It's Keeping Up with Keith.
We'll grab it off you and we'll share it we'll share it down below.
But yeah, so my family are diehards. My parents, I don't have a season ticket because I'm always working at games, but my parents they've sat in like the same section at Homebush ever since the Dogs started playing there. And they've sat in the same row for over 10 years. My mum's superstitious, so she's
Wow.
yeah.
Like to sit in the same place, same seat.
Yeah, same.
But I mean,
seats
after
for
all the
10
losses, you'd
years.
think maybe I'm
You
going
would
to
think
change
so.
something.
You would think so, but no, 13's her lucky number. So they've been in row 13 for a really long time.
Wow.
So we are mad. My brother actually got married in his Bulldogs jersey.
Why not surprised?
So it wasn't his like ceremony, but they got married. Like had a
mad
I think
one.
it's like a civil ceremony.
Yeah,
at the births, deaths, and marriages, and he wore a Bulldogs jersey with a suit jacket.
Is his wife a Bulldog supporter?
So she wasn't really a big rugby league fan, but like it is a necessity that if you come into our family, you have to be ideally a Bulldogs fan, if not a rugby league fan. And she's now got a personalised jersey and talks about the team. You know you're a fan when you're saying we.
Yeah.
Now she says we.
Oh, wow. So he got her. He got her at the end. So is your partner then a Bulldogs fan?
I actually met my partner through the Bulldogs. He was an ex-player, so he used to play under 20s in New South Wales Cup for the Bulldogs, which is how I met him while I was cheerleading. He doesn't really support anyone, but it's, I guess given he played for them, he has no choice. He has to.
And he's married to one of
is.
the most diehard supporters I think I've ever met.
He doesn't have
He probably
a
doesn't have
choice.
happy wife, happy life, right?
Absolutely.
But I'll tell you just about that. So my wife is a diehard Dragons fan.
Jeez.
She's a diehard Dragons fan. He's a diehard Dragons fan.
Not a diehard, but
Oh,
yeah.
come on. This guy, he was so
I'm
salty
just
when they got
I'm just a
smashed.
footy enthusiast. That's all.
Look, he was so salty when the Dragons got beaten by the Roosters, and I was giving it to him a little bit. He was trying to act all calm, but he was very, very, he was very
Sorry,
salty.
they got what they deserve.
Salty about it, right? I was salty about how we were going for a long
Well,
time.
100%. It's our turn to...
So I wasn't salty at all.
Wow, so I mean, there's so much to unpack. I don't know where to start.
I know. It's a lot. Like our family group chat goes off during Bulldogs games. Like I said, we've got memorabilia. I've got like old school jerseys. We've got everything. Like it's
So over this period, so you've been following the Doggies, I'd imagine, for 25
My
plus
whole
years.
life,
Your
yeah.
whole life.
Yeah.
If I was to say, what's the one moment that stands out for you?
The 2004 grand final.
The grand
Yeah,
final.
I remember it like it was yesterday. Like I remember it was my mum, my dad, my brother, and I went. My little sister, my parents didn't take, she was too young. So I remember dropping her off at my other grandparents' house because like I don't even know why we dropped her off there. Anyways, it must have been
Had to
close.
leave her somewhere while you go to the grand final.
Yeah, I don't know. It must have been close to the ground. Anyways, and we were sitting, I remember like the date, I'm pretty sure it was the 3rd of October, exactly a week before my birthday. And we were sitting opposite the tunnel, so the other side where we used to usually sit on the other side. And I just remember, so lame when you think about it, but I remember having a packet of Starburst lollies in my hands, and every time I ate a lolly, something good happened. The roosters would knock on, or like, and I ate them in dead set 5 minutes.
I would have been in anxiety mode.
I was just like, and we were there, and I remember it's the first time I've ever seen my brother cry.
Oh, wow.
It was on the full-time siren, but the afterwards was pretty cool for my parents and my brother, not me. But we got it on a supporter bus from Belmore to the.
Oh, yeah.
But coming home, my dad is
How long was the drive? 5 hours?
Well, this is the thing. My
I
dad's a
remember that
little.
night.
My dad's a little cheeky, and he accidentally took us on the players' family and friends bus
By
by
how
accident.
Awesome is that?
So
but being such a diehard fan, I don't think anyone would.
we got on the wrong bus with like Willie Mason's family. I was actually telling Braith and Asta this the other day. We were on the bus, and I remember it was someone's parents or whatever was like, oh, do you know what time the function starts? And my dad's like, oh, yeah, I think it's like 7. Like, just went along with it. So our bus took us into, because all the buses weren't allowed into Canterbury Leagues Club, but our bus took us straight in.
Wow.
Here's the thing, though. I was 11. So my parents wanted to party all night long. My brother was not 18 but could pass as 18. So they rang my grandparents and they and I got thrown over the fence. They were like, see you later, you're tomorrow's issue.
Jeez.
And my parents partied all night long. And I was talking about this with my mum the other day because I wrote a story for Fox where I tracked down all the 2004, 20 years on 2004 members. And my mum was reminding me of the time they were in the Leagues Club and Braith was like, F the Roosters.
3 years later.
Man, half that team literally played for the Roosters after.
Yeah.
Willie, Mark, Sonny, Braith. Did I miss someone?
Yeah.
What was
Who else ended up playing for the Roosters?
that?
Anyway,
No
one cares about the Roosters.
Yeah, no.
No one cares about the Roosters.
That Canterbury forward pack, and I say it always, is the best
100%.
assembled forward pack I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Beats
It'll be hard to
Brisbane's,
beat,
beats Canberra's, beats Melbourne's.
They ticked every box in terms of like meathead forwards, workhorse forwards. They just
Superstar.
skills. They ticked everything.
I think that was probably the most skillful like forward pack that we've seen for a long time. Like I know that there was some skillful forwards obviously in the 80s and even in the 90s, but just as a pack, you look at what they were able to do with Rennie, with Sonny, even with the likes of like Mason.
Young Roy Asatasi.
Young Roy Asatasi.
Steve Price.
What a he didn't play that game, but,
but
the pack,
regardless, he's part
Andrew
of that
Ryan's
pack.
tackle.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, did you eat like 5 Starbursts at the same time when?
Oh my god!
It's like time froze when that happened.
Yeah, I know. I've interviewed him a couple of times about it. You know what's funny? I don't think he's actually. I think he said he's either never watched the grand final back or he's only watched it back once. Mark O'Mealy's the same. I think he's only watched it back once, or I don't know why. Because if I won a grand final, I'd be watching it every day. I'd be raising my children on it.
I'd be like,
sit down and watch.
learn.
I think from memory, I remember Willie had a great game in that grand final.
He got the Clive Churchill
Yeah, he
medal.
got.
was it him?
He was
Yeah.
killer, man.
Was it him?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he got the Clive Churchill. He's killing
Yeah.
it, man. So
yeah,
you were
okay.
a Bulldogs cheerleader, as
Yes.
you mentioned. I mean, I can see why you were a Bulldogs
Yeah.
cheerleader. What I want to ask is, did you become a cheerleader just to be involved with the Bulldogs, or was it sort of you wanted to be a cheerleader and then you just thought I might as well be a Bulldogs cheerleader?
No, it was my childhood dream, literally.
Oh, wow.
So I've got a photo of my Year 6 yearbook. I've got teeth out here, bushy eyebrows, like I was a bit of an ugly duckling. And it's got, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I wrote a Bulldogs cheerleader.
Wow.
So it was like everything I've always wanted to do. I'm lucky that my childhood dream was achievable and not like an astronaut or something. But so I knew that you had to be 18. So I remember the day I turned 18. Yeah, the day I turned 18, we sent an email. We were waiting for the audition process to be put up on the website. And the auditions, I remember, were smack bang in the middle of when I was meant to be in Fiji for schoolies. And I was so hell-bent on being a Bulldogs cheerleader that I was like, I don't want to go to schoolies. Like, I'll go to schoolies late. Like, I just want to audition to be a Bulldogs cheerleader. And I remember my mum emailed the club at the time and was like, my daughter's actually going to be in Fiji. And they were awesome. They were like, oh, don't tell her to miss schoolies. Like, when she comes back, we'll just do a private audition.
So good.
Wow.
So I did a private audition, and it was always the Bulldogs or nothing. I remember when the Bulldogs cheerleaders went through a rebrand from the Bells to the Sapphires,
Yes.
I had the Sharks reach out and ask if I wanted to come join their squad. I grew up in the Shire, so I knew a lot of the girls, and their their coach choreographer is awesome, and I love her. And she must have thought I was crazy, but I wrote back and was like, oh, so much respect for your squad, but I can never pull on another team's colours. I just can't.
Look, respect. I
You know
mean,
what? Give him the number 1 ticket holder, the whole family.
Honestly,
honest. Who is the Bulldogs' number 1 ticket holder?
Good question.
that is a good question. I don't know.
There's probably someone super powerful and famous that would have it.
Well, at least it's not like the Sharks where you have someone like Scott Morrison is number 1.
They kicked him out straight away.
Yeah, they did. They said they wanted to
They got him out straight away.
So you became cheerleader. How long were you a cheerleader for?
5 years. So 2011, and my last season was when I started. My last season was 2015.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And was that
Good
like a
stretch.
natural progression for you to move away from cheerleading into like journalism, or how did that sort of transition
I actually got
happen?
sacked.
Oh, jeez.
Sacked for dating my now husband.
Oh,
Yeah, so I went out with a bang. So I met my husband. He was playing under 20s at the time, and I'd met him. They used to do a thing called the etiquette dinner, the under 20s etiquette dinner. So they would bring in the under 20s players would learn how to, table manners and how to talk to people. It sounds funny, but like it was a lot of them were quite shy and young, and it was a great opportunity to teach them how to hold themselves at functions, which is if you're going to be a professional athlete, you're going to have to do that.
And among sponsors and stuff as well, probably expect them to have some sort of etiquette.
This one year they were like, oh, let's do the etiquette, teach them the etiquette stuff, and then let's bring in all the cheerleaders. We weren't with our pom poms and costumes on. We had beautiful black dresses, very classy, and just get them to mingle. And that's how I met my now husband. So I've actually got a photo from the first night we met because it was at this event. We met at Canterbury Leagues Club. I know, it's crazy. So that was I think that was 2014, but we didn't actually start dating until 2015. And I remember I became the captain choreographer, so like captain coach of the squad in 2015. And I remember sitting at Joe Bell's, and we had a contract, and I can't remember if we had a contract every year, but we had a contract this one year, and in it said no fraternising with players.
Oh, right.
And I'd already started kind of chatting to him, and I thought, well, like, I don't know where this is going to go. Like, I'm not going to, I'm not going to
It doesn't mean anything. It's not a contract. Like I'm just talking to a bloke.
Well, I was like, I'm not going to step away from cheerleading for a guy that could just be a 3-month fling. So, so I just signed away and whatever. Anyways, we ended up being in a full-blown relationship, so we had to keep it under wraps for the whole 2015 season. It was a secret until one of the other cheerleaders dobbed me in.
Oh,
She's not a real doggy supporter, let me tell you.
She was an Eels supporter.
Oh, my. This is why we hate the Eels on this podcast. I say every week, when the Eels aren't playing, when they have a bye, it's a good week for rugby league.
So what happened? She become the head? Did she then become the head choreographer?
No, she did not.
Oh, thank God.
Probably got fired for being a snitch.
Yeah, she should have been. I got, so the club was like, well, you've gone against a contract, which is fair enough. But they said, we're going to offer you a media internship instead, because they knew that I was at university studying to become a journalist.
Awesome.
And so I moved into their media department and just did an internship there. Mind you, my now husband decided to leave the club 6 months later. Anyways, I was like, couldn't you have made that decision earlier?
Did he end up playing first grade at all?
No, he didn't. He played New South Wales Cup and he hung up the boots a couple of years ago now. But, I went out with a bang. Otherwise, if that didn't happen, who knows? I could have been cheerleading until I was 40 years old.
Okay. I was about to say, you didn't get sacked. You got upgraded to a career pathways position.
Yeah, I got redistributed.
You got
upgraded.
That's a great story to tell.
You got into a media internship.
Honestly, I think we're going to have to name this podcast the biggest Bulldogs fan we've ever met. Like, that's just got to be.
I know, the way that my whole life is aligned. Like, I met my husband through the Bulldogs. Like, to have a Bulldog, my whole family, like my whole life has just kind of centered around the Bulldogs.
It's just incredible. When I reached out to you, I knew you were a Bulldogs fan, but I didn't think you were going to be the biggest fan we've ever met. This is fantastic. I want to touch just briefly on something. Like, I find it interesting that they had that in the contract, no fraternising with the players. And cheerleading, as I'm sure you're aware, it has a bit of a negative stigma attached to it. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that would have played into that contract, like that line in the contract?
Probably, because I don't think that's in the players' contract. Don't fraternise with the cheerleaders. I don't think it is. I mean, I don't know, but I'm fairly certain. Otherwise, his contract would have been terminated, right?
Yeah,
and it wasn't.
fair enough.
He was probably given a pat on the back, if we're being real. The stigma around cheerleaders. I feel like as well, like cheerleading's kind of dying off. In the recent years, it's a lot of clubs are getting rid of their cheerleaders, which makes me really sad, because it's actually killing off a pathway for women in rugby league. Like, I feel like my story, I grew up wanting to be a cheerleader, and if I hadn't been a cheerleader, I probably wouldn't be working in media, because I did my journalism degree. But I started cheerleading before I decided I wanted to be a journalist. And a part of I've tried to explain this before, but I think the best way to say it is when I was cheerleading, I felt like I was figuratively and literally on the other side of the fence. So I was no longer a fan. I was a part of the game, and I was a part of my club, my Bulldogs, you know? So when I knew cheerleading wasn't forever, so I wanted to work I wanted a career where I was a part of the spectacle, a part of the game, and not the outside. I was on the inside circle. So if I hadn't experienced life as a cheerleader and being a part of, you know, the game, I don't know if I would have pursued a career working in media.
It's sort of, yeah.
Can I ask, is there a rivalry between each club's cheerleaders? Like, I think you don't meet each other in regular club games.
Yeah,
but
we do at finals. During finals, you've got both squads.
Jeez.
I don't like
Not really?
Not really, but I do. Sometimes in finals, emotions are a bit more heightened, and I think there was actually one finals game in 2015 where the NRL actually made us do a dance off.
Oh,
oh, jeez.
okay.
Yeah.
It was against the Manly girls?
It was it was either the Dragons or Roosters. I can't remember which, because we played the Dragons and Roosters in successive weeks.
Did too.
Yeah.
Did you play Manly as well?
That was 2014.
Or was that the extra time? It is 2014.
I've got a great story if you want to hear it from that 2014 game.
Can I just want to ask you something about cheerleading and giving you a pathway to be involved with the game. But back then, the NRLW, I don't even think existed.
No.
Now, there is a much more direct pathway, not only to be involved in rugby league, but to be the spectacle. Now you can be a player.
Yeah.
So while I understand what you're saying, for the time, it was the right way.
Yep.
But now as NRLW has become what it is and as it continues to grow, I mean, do you still think that there's a place for cheerleading?
I do,
sport?
because not every female wants to play. Like, it's funny because I think about this often. I often think that if there was an NRLW and there was a Bulldogs team when I was a little girl going to the games, would my childhood dream be to be an NRLW player? But you can't be what you can't see, right?
That's true.
And there wasn't many females working on the sideline.
Yeah, okay,
There were not, to my knowledge, but the cheerleaders were. So that's what I saw, and that's what I saw as being a part of the game. And granted, I was a dancer growing up too, so that naturally I fell into that. But I can't see myself making tackles. Like I'd be running the other way. So I still think there is a role for cheerleading. I think clubs can just utilize cheerleaders in a better way. So rather than they add a spectacle, and I found from my cheerleading experience, a lot of fans spoke to, they wanted to talk to us because on game day, we were like the closest thing to being, even though we didn't know what was going on inside the club, but they saw us as like
the extension of it.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, let's go chat to them. They just talk about footy, and they get a kick out of talking to someone that works for the club. And there are little families that bring their kids, and we used to do activations on the concourse, like face painting and photo booths, and it was fun for the kids. But also, like, you can use your cheerleaders and create like a pathway of like ambassadors and media stuff, media training and what I did, and go from cheerleading into working into the media and doing a media internship, or they could go into working in other sections of the club, HR, finance, sponsorships, stuff like that. So I think it is. You just got to use them to, better purposes.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
As a male,
Yes.
and as someone who I analyze every part of the game, and I speak to a lot of guys as well.
Yeah.
And please forgive me. I don't mean to be disrespectful at all.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like I don't. Like,
a lot of people don't.
I just it's like there may be better uses. For the girls than cheerleading, for example. I don't know. That's just sort of.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dib?
I don't know. I just, when you're on the hill at the game and it's half time, but like you want to, I don't know. I've never really had time to watch them. I'm sorry, but I don't know. I just thought, honestly, you know what it was to me? I mean, if they're happy,
exactly,
they're happy. And I thought there's probably people enjoying it. Yeah. But I mean, I was just like straight back to grab a pie and a Coke or something.
Some people, it's not their jam, but other people might not love NRLW, and some people might not love the halftime kick for cash, you know what I mean? Like everybody has.
I just thought it was always part of a game, so I just let tradition roll. Like I didn't honestly, give it much thought. I just, I was just waiting for half time to
Well, I think they're harmless, and it's a pathway that keeps, that's open for women to play a role in the game.
I'll tell you what I do like, because every day you get some meathead, bonehead, mental midget that wants to talk footy. Sorry, I know I sound a bit, condescending or something.
Yeah.
But I just got over the same stuff again, and like guys that never played footy in their game, talking like, and you just look at them and think, geez, like you look at them. I didn't play at a professional level, but played at such a level to know, like, dude, like anyway, not to take them serious, but just get annoyed hearing from them.
Yeah.
But then when a girl comes, it's like, oh, okay, I got a different opinion now.
Yeah.
I want to, I'm interested here to see how a girl sees things.
Yeah.
So you pay more attention.
Yeah.
And I like hearing it from a girl.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a different insight. Sometimes they talk to you, but then they come and tell you, like, then they tell you, I don't understand, Whereas a guy rarely ever get that. They all talk like...
They would never admit that they don't understand.
They all talk like they're Cameron Smith. I've played 430 games. I've played for Queensland, 45 times or something, in Australia for like 60, 70 times, and I work for Channel 9. Yeah. That's why I like hearing it from the girls.
I still think there's a lot of sexism, like, in sport. And look, sometimes I think, like, it's still difficult for women to get, just to be fans, right? There's still a lot of, as he calls them, mental midgets. Like, guys will be like, oh,
Sorry, I used that word.
Like, I think, the female referees, like, you may not agree with the refereeing decisions, for example, but like, I don't like Gerard Sutton as a ref because he always shafts the Bulldogs on on Good Friday or whatever. Yeah. But it's got nothing to do with him being a male.
Who was the ref? Right? Who was the ref that Jammer was doing this?
Gerard Sutton.
That's him.
Oh, it was him.
Yeah, that's him. That's him.
Remember that? I don't forget that.
So, all right, who's your favourite player?
Current or all time?
All time.
Matt Utai.
Matt Utai.
Yeah.
The Utai Slam.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just loved him as a player. Like, I just thought...
Hard to tackle,
workhorse. Just, I don't know, loved him as a player. And, 2004, like that era. So he's my all-time.
I think there was a game, it was against the Roosters. I think he scored the winner, not the grand final, because he did score in the grand final, I think, twice.
He did, yeah.
But there was a game, I think it was 26-all.
Yeah.
Utah ducked under 3 or 4. And I think when he slammed the ball, I thought he put a crater in the ground.
Yeah.
Does anyone remember that?
We all remember
What
it.
year was that? Was that 05?
That was 04. That was 04.
Yeah.
That was 04. That was
he rolled over people. Yeah.
I'll never forget that.
That was when I think Sherwin or was it Anasta decided to get they were going to spread right and then
they went left
to go back left and then
threw a mad
cut out ball to Utah and Utah had like 4 plays to cut through.
He ducked
and then just slammed it.
Yeah.
That's the like
Utah
the quintessential
slam.
Utah Slam image that you've got.
Yeah.
In 04, that grand final, I'll be honest here, like, I was waiting for, when Sonny broke out that year and he was just another world, right?
Yeah.
I was waiting for him to jump on in that grand final because I just wanted to see that trademark shoulder charge.
Yeah.
It did come on Flannery.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought Utah was special in that grand final.
Yeah.
He scored those 2 difficult tries as well.
Yeah.
And then I think the wingers it was only your wingers that scored. Because Haslam scored the one on the other side.
Yeah.
He had a killer boot that guy.
It's crazy with Matt Utai. Like my all-time favourite player. And the other week when I was writing this story where I had to track down all the members of the 2004 grand final, Marco O'Mealy hooked me up with everyone's phone numbers. And I was like, and I texted him and I was like, I can't believe that I am texting Matt Utai. And he works in, I think it's like, he's a concreter or something.
Oh, good on him.
Yeah, like he's a tradie, right?
All right, good on him.
I just can't believe that 20 years on from the 2004 grand final, I am working as a journalist and I'm tracking down, I'm the one in the game, working in the game, and he's just a regular dude. My mind was blown.
Matt Utai will never be a regular dude.
No, he won't.
He's always going to be Matt Utai.
Yeah, I know. But like, it was crazy because I've got a vivid memory of a fan day and at Belmore, and I was like, all I wanted was Matt Utai's signature. I got everybody else's. I just wanted Matt Utai's signature. And I remember it was near the end and he was free and he was leaning up against the wall and he was texting on his phone. And I was like, oh, he's there. My mum's like, go. Oh, come on. And I walked up and I was like, can I please have your autograph? It's just crazy.
God.
20 years later.
Amazing.
What about, do your parents have any stories about Terry Lamb? Because I fanboyed Terry as a kid. I didn't follow Canterbury.
Probably. I'll have to put you in touch with my dad. My dad's good friends with him now. Yeah.
That'd be great.
That would be awesome.
So last year you had a pretty disappointing year. the doggies. This year started off a bit slow. Seems to have picked up the pace. And I was saying yesterday that if we're consistent and don't suffer too many injuries, I think we make the 8.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on the team this year? How do you think we'll go?
I agree. To be honest, they've exceeded my expectations. Well, actually, I thought that they would finish this year around 10th. But I don't think it was going to be a reflection of them. It was more so a reflection of other teams. You know, I thought the Knights and,
they've fallen off.
Do you know what I mean? Like I thought it was just going to be. I thought it was
Souths.
just going to be too hard to make the 8.
She's spot on.
But now, I can see 100% see them making the 8 because everything that Cameron Ciraldo was implementing last season, the whole defensive system,
it's coming.
We're starting to see it come to fruition, and the signings are actually delivering. There was so much conjecture around the signings and all the utilities, but Connor Tracy at fullback.
Well, I think what we failed, even myself as a fan, to realise is just how big of an influencer HIA is going to become, and how important having utilities actually is. So if you have 4 props on the bench and your second rower, your centre, someone suffers an injury, you're sort of shit out of luck because you're going to have to throw a completely random player in there and hope to cover it. Whereas you come to the team, you've got Taff and Mann, for example, on the bench. You've got Salmon playing. You've got Josh Curran who can play anywhere. And it's all of a sudden it's like, well, we can plug any gap that we've got. But when you put them in their positions, they're killing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I can see some good decisions were made.
Yeah.
But then you look at like attack, for example, and one of the problems that I've had is that we haven't had a fullback that can throw that final pass to our wingers and to our centers. Come to Connor Tracy and against the Sharks, he does it twice and he sets up 2 line breaks and you think, okay, hang on a second, I can see something there. And now it's like, well, I've got confidence. Like we go down to Melbourne, we have 5 injuries. We should have won.
I know.
I think we should have won.
100%.
But we didn't, and that's okay because it's Melbourne, and you understand Melbourne is a different beast. But we performed, we pushed them to their limit.
Totally.
Right. Whereas you look at the games they had against other teams that were supposed to be better than us, haven't really performed. And so it's like, well, can they? If they're consistent and we don't have too many injuries, I don't actually see.
Yeah, I think injuries are key. I think if everything goes right, 100% they could be playing finals. But I think major injuries, like can't lose Kickow. We've managed actually quite well without Preston. I thought that was going to be I thought that was going to be bad. I know we haven't seen a lot of the best of Crichton yet, but can't lose him. Can't afford to lose a prop after losing Chris Patolo. Can't afford to lose Reid Marnie at hooker. So
really,
I don't think we can.
No disrespect, I love Reid. I agree with you.
Yeah,
but I just feel like
you can plug that
throw
hole.
Bailey Haywood in there.
Yes,
and I reckon he'll kill it.
100%. But there's a difference between
not
playing.
to Reid's level.
Yeah, there's a difference between playing
not yet anyway
1 or 2 NRL games versus a whole season or a 15 games back to back at hooker of all positions
and making 50. He's averaging
exactly.
Like 50
the physicality is next.
And if
level.
you look at your next 6 rounds, in my opinion, he's only got one difficult game, which is, and it comes out at a perfect time. So he's got the Tigers this week, then the difficult game is the week after. The Panthers.
Yeah.
And I thought Canterbury had the hardest run of any NRL side in that first 6 weeks. If you remember, I told you guys could be 0-6. After 6 rounds, you were 2-4, unlucky to lose to Melbourne, unlucky to lose to South Sydney.
Yes.
I thought, geez, they could have been 4-2.
I know. I look at those and I think, oh my God, imagine if we won those.
But then he's got the Tigers. The bye came at the right time, and I thought deservedly so. We had this discussion yesterday about the bye being worth 2 points, and for teams like Canterbury, it is much deserved because of the hard stint. But then after the Panthers, you then get Newcastle again, who you've already beat.
Yeah.
You get
Raiders, Dragons,
and then I think you get a team that's towards the Parramatta again. Okay. I think you guys will beat them this time because they're missing their half and their fullback.
I think we beat them regardless.
So I thought, and I told him, I go, man, you guys should be getting at least 5 out of the 6.
Yeah.
You could be up around the 4. And I'd be quite disappointed if you don't get 5 out of 6.
Yeah.
Look, I think you got to temper expectation as well. Like our forward pack is doing we have 2 or 3 players doing the role of maybe 5.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like
can't take it away from the rest. I think Jamin Salmon, he started off slow, but he's come good these last few weeks. I felt He started off real slow. I know everyone's been critical of him. You know, Curran, we know, rocks up every week, but Kickout's been absolutely bullocking. And how good Sam Hughes, he's starting to become your leading front rower.
Well, Gus,
Oh my god.
yeah, singled him out, I'm pretty sure, at the start of the season.
Yeah.
You got the little pocket rocket off the bench.
Oh, Curtis Moran.
Yeah,
He's great.
he's
Michael
amazing.
Ennis's favourite
He's a
player.
powerhouse, man. Wow.
Plays above his weight.
He plays like Trevor Gilmeister.
He's the size of a hooker.
He's
you know,
Trevor
like
Gilmeister
if
in
you
a
saw
full.
him
Yeah,
and
he is.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you
He's
saw him
killer.
and Reid Marnie off in the distance,
Short.
they look pretty similar.
I had the enogamy of seeing Marnie standing next to.
Jack Hetherington.
No. I saw that. That was funny. But I remember it was in front of Joe Bell's. You're 5'8". What have I forgotten? Burden. And one guy's that tall.
Burton is big.
Very tall.
And then I saw,
yeah.
geez, Reed's
Reed's my height, might even be a little bit shorter. So when you look at his height on the website, it says 175 centimeters.
No way.
He ain't 175.
No way.
I'm 166, and he would be
He's no way 175.
possibly 166, if not shorter. They're lying.
You hear that, Reed?
They're lying.
There's no way he's 175 because I am 178 and I was looking
Yeah.
He
down
must
on
have paid off the web.
There's
dev to
another
put
player to
175.
Jai Gray, the Rabbitohs
Oh,
fullback.
he's
Jai Gray.
wow.
Walked past
Really
me.
cool.
It says he's 170. He ain't 170. He's like 162.
So he's like Clive Churchill.
But how good is he?
He's good.
He's a very good player.
Yeah.
Like I honestly think that, and this is what I don't get about the Rabbitohs, but like he should be there. Like their spine should be him, Mamazoulis, Hawkins, Elias. That should be their future.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
As they move out,
Yeah.
Cook and Walker,
Yeah.
and leave Latrell in the centres if need be. Honestly, because you got to move forward.
Yeah, well, it sounds like that's what's going to happen when.
Poor
Well,
Elias
not
is
not
gone.
the Elias stuff, but like Latrell is going to move to the centres when he comes back from his suspension, and Jai Gray is going to play fullback.
Because when we watched the Dragons and Rabbitohs trial, and honestly, far away the best on field for both teams was Jai Gray.
Yeah,
he
he's
was
good.
He was so
Pocket
good, and you
rocket.
see it even in the game they played against the Storm. He was one of the only guys actually making a difference in the team. The only guy that was sort of using his speed, making those breaks.
Yeah.
And I love seeing young players from any team come through and sort of show like we can fulfill our potential. Just trust in us. Like I love that because
You guys got another pocket rocket, Blake Taff.
Yeah.
Blake Taff.
I feel sorry for him because
I honestly-
that Good Friday game, he was having a blinder until he was knocked out. Even Cameron Ciraldo said that's the best game I've seen him play. And then, you miss a game, Connor Tracy comes in. Like,
And then how do you drop Connor? Like he's so safe. He's
But
one of those fullbacks that
100%.
you think can play all 27 or 24 rounds or
Yeah, he's
whatever
tough.
at fullback, and he'll probably only ever drop one
Yeah.
because sun's in his eye.
Yeah.
But you know what you've got at the back.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
safe as
I
houses,
know.
and he runs like he's a Dylan Edwards.
Yeah.
He'll run 500 kilometers, 500
And
meters a game.
I don't think Blake Taff can stay on the bench.
He's He's shown me he can
longer.
play. He can play a bit in the halves. Like
He's
set up
played
a
in the
few
halves.
tries.
He spent a fair bit of time in New South Wales Cup in the halves, Blake Taff. But I don't think I've seen some fans call for him to play halfback. I don't.
Not yet?
No, he's not. He's not a halfback. He's not.
You don't think so?
No. When they were coming through, do you remember when Adam Reynolds was leaving and leaving the Rabbitohs, and there was all this talk about Blake Taff and Lachlan Ilias. Lachlan Ilias was the halfback. Blake Taff was never really in the frame to be a halfback.
okay.
He's a fullback, maybe a 5'8". He's not that game managing, and that's what Matt Burton needs, is that game managing voice, and that's not Blake Taff, I don't think.
Is it Drew Hutchison though?
I can see why it's. I had this conversation with my husband because he's played a little bit with Drew Hutchison and I played against. Anyways, and I said, "Who do you think is going to be the number 7?" This was in the preseason. He's like, 100% it'll be Drew, and he was right. And so I can see why. It's because he's that little bit older and a little bit more experienced and a little bit more settled. The reason why I don't think he's thriving as much as we'd like him to is because when he was at the Roosters,
Superstars.
all he had to do was the non-negotiables, really.
Yeah,
so
it's all
he had to
superstars
just get his kicks away, nail his passes and make his tackles, and he's a good defender. And that's what Robbo calls them. He calls them the non-negotiables, those basics. Coming over to the Bulldogs, it's a different team. You don't have your James Tedesco, your
Manus.
Luke Keary, your Manus, your Sam Walker. Like, it's a bigger job. So I think eventually I'd love to see Toby Sexton get a go because he's been good in New South Wales Cup. But at the moment, Drew's defence has been pretty good too. So
He does communicate a lot though, Drew, and that's I think a big part of it because I feel like what it's done for Burton at least is it's taking that responsibility because he's not captain, because he has someone like Drew inside him to be speaking, even though I always look back to the 2018 grand final where Cooper Cronk, had a busted shoulder,
and he
nothing.
was directing.
He was just like, go do that, go do this. And like, obviously he's no Cronk. I'm not saying that, Hutchison is Cronk, but I feel like he almost provides the same thing for Burton. Because like I was saying, like I've been saying this for weeks now, Burton is the form 6 of the competition. I don't care what anyone, I'll argue with you till the cows come home. I think in terms of what Burton has been able to do as a 6, he's one of the form 6s of the competition. Like Luai's been okay. Walker's been crap.
I think Luai's been more average than Walker. That's what I honestly think. I think the sides carried him.
But I just feel like Burton has been one of, maybe not better than Kick-Out, but I would say he's only second to Kick-Out. Yeah. Everyone else is getting the accolades, but I think people are like sleeping on just how important Burton has been.
He's been very good.
Right?
Very
without his passing game, unlocking, Kick-Out.
That left edge.
Honestly, because they're doing all the damage. And everyone's just rolling on from that.
They're so exciting.
It's fantastic.
They're like best left edge in the competition.
The fastest as well, Sherry and Fox.
Oh, I know.
It's one of those edges that I think as the season goes on, we're going to start seeing,
And I think if we asked Matt Burton why he's playing so well, he would probably credit Drew Hutchison.
I think so too.
I think you guys got a good headache coming up in the next few years with halves. You got some of the young guys.
We forget Carl Olawapu. There are so many. Joseph O'Neill, Mitchell Woods.
And Mitchell won the under 19.
Still Khaled Rajab and Ron Massey as well. And there's so many halves that the Bulldogs.
They got a good headache.
Yeah. Good times.
I mean, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Let's not jinx it.
So I wanted to ask you about the NRLW. And I'm sure you probably pay attention to the NRLW a lot more than most fans would, not only because you report on rugby league, but also there'll be a lot more. I know this may sound sexist and I apologize, but as a woman, I think that it would matter a lot more, especially being such a hard rugby league fan.
You want to support it,
and look, we do too.
Yeah.
But I want to ask, do you think that the NRLW is expanding too quickly with the Bulldogs and I think it's the Warriors coming back next year?
So if it was 2 other teams, to any other club, I would say yes. But they've nailed it in terms of the clubs that they've brought in. Because you look at the Bulldogs females pathways, that Lisa Fiola Cup, undefeated.
I think they're the best in the country.
Tasha Gale, I think they dropped maybe 2 games all season and were unlucky to kind of, not go through to the grand final. So that pathway is booming, right? And then the Warriors, like all these New Zealand women that have come over here to play are going to jump at the opportunity to go over back home and play. So if it was any other club, I'd say yes. Like, no, like let's settle down. But because it's the Bulldogs who've got their pathways in check and the Warriors that are going to have to probably reject players, they're going to have so many players putting their hand up, I think it'll work. But I think after this, there needs to be a good few years before any more are added. And let's make that competition really competitive and really tight, because there were blowout scores last season.
I think that was the one thing that personally
and it's hard. It's hard to get on board when there are blowout scores. You want something that's tight, and there's genuine competitiveness, and it could go either way. You don't want to look at the draw and be like, well, they're going to get smashed.
Yeah, that's right. 100%.
So I think after this, let's leave it for a few years.
I would say at least 5 years. Let
it breathe,
really
and let there be females females genuinely missing out that could be playing. You know what I mean? And let's start using have the state-based competitions like the Harvey Norman Women's Premiership and the BMD Premiership, have them booming as well, and so that you'll see players that were playing in the NRLW not being able to get a crack and they have to just play in state comps. Like, that's when you know it's time to grow again.
Build depth, build the experience, build the anticipation. So you mentioned how good the NRLW, the Bulldogs pathway is for the women, and I think that's great because Adam was telling me that Phil Gould it reports up to him, and look, it's great to see. I want to move now to the Fox NRL stuff, because I think that's pretty exciting. And honestly, I don't know how long we'll be going for, and it's just been so much fun. The stories you've spun have just been fantastic.
I got nowhere to be.
And neither do we, don't worry. So, how did you get involved with Fox NRL?
So when I finished my uni degree at the end of 2015, I knew I only wanted to work as a sports journalist. Didn't want to do anything else. Applied for every single job there was. Got rejected. So I was like, okay, I just need experience as a journalist. So then I started applying for like political journalism, like finance. Like, couldn't tell you the first thing about finance or politics, but I was like, I need to just get some experience. Got rejected from everything. So I thought, okay, I am going to pick a company that I want to work for and apply for any job that they have. So I actually started at Fox as a receptionist in 2016. So that's how I got my foot in the door, I guess. And I kind of, like, looking back on it, it was actually a masterstroke because everyone has to talk to the receptionist, right? Like no one's rude to the receptionist. I was signing for everyone's packages. I was letting you know if your catering turned up for a meeting. If you weren't nice to me, I'd take a brownie. Like, you know,
she's spot on.
You know, I got to order your stationery. So like everyone comes and talks to the receptionist, and I would let everyone know what my aspirations were. And eventually, you know, I got an opportunity to come in early. Fox Sports News used to be downstairs at Fox Sports, and I'd go in before my reception shift. I'd go in at 5 a.m. and I'd run the auto queue for the newsreaders, and then I'd do that from 5 to 8 a.m. and then I'd go upstairs and work on reception from 8 till 4. And then I did, you know, a little bit of training on the weekends in the digital video team. And then I also went up to the NRL editor of the website and was like, can I please pitch stories to you every single week? And then, so that's how I kind of became, that was like my first, actually it's pretty cool. My first article that was ever published was in Women in League Round, and I got to write about my story as a Bulldogs fan and cheerleader, which is really cool because how many people get to say their first published article was being able to talk about their journey and their, so that's how I started at Fox. But I ended up leaving in April 2018 because I got a job with the Big League magazine.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I think when I was at uni I must have sent them my work, and you know, they didn't have any jobs available at the time, but they must have kept my stuff on record. And yeah, so I went to the Big League magazine, which was such a fantastic way for a new journalist. It was it was a beautiful environment, like supportive. The digital world is mental. So working on a magazine, other than like a print deadline, the pressure wasn't too much, and it was great. And also like the Big League was all very positively geared stories. So I was there for a little bit, but I like to call it a quarter life crisis. I felt like I wasn't good enough, and I wasn't going to be able to make a career out of it.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, it was just, you know, it's so competitive, and it is tough for women, especially writing wise. There's not many female writers. You know, you'll see a lot on television, but there's not a lot of writers. Yep. And I just wasn't sure if I was ever if it was sustainable. So I ended up leaving. And I went to Foxtel rather than Fox Sports, Foxtel, and worked in just like an internal comms role, so nothing sport related. Great job, Monday to Friday. Had a great boss, great colleagues. Was quite happy, but I lacked that
drive.
You know, you do something good, and if I had written a great story, I'd have a thrill. But if I just did something good in my internal comms role, I was like, cool,
awesome,
like,
did my job today,
like whatever,
earned my check,
whatever, And it's funny. I remember one day, I got an email from the lady that was the head of the wardrobe department at Fox Sports, and now I had created a relationship with her because I was working on reception, and I had to send a lot of couriers to send like clothes off to get dry cleaned and stuff like that. And she sent me an email one day, and she's like, oh, we need someone to stand on stage at the Dally M's and hand out the trophies to the players. And I know your background. I know that if anyone would love this, it would be you. And I was like, oh my God. I remember I emailed her back within like a minute, and then she didn't reply in an hour, like within the hour. So I sent her another one. So I got this.
That's so cool.
The coolest gig in 2019. I was on stage at the Dally M's, you know, handing out trophies to, you know, Craig Bellamy. Like, it was really cool. Met ScoMo backstage because he would hand out the Dally M medal. It was insane. I'd always dreamt of going to the Dally M's, but, you know, to be on stage was like
Next level.
Wild.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason, or you know, or there's a meaning behind everything.
Absolutely, for sure.
And I thought this gig doesn't land in my lap, you know, by coincidence. I would be mad not to explore where this can take me, right? Like, let's just give it one last shot. And so a few weeks later, I emailed the big boss of Fox Sports and said, you know, I used to work in the industry. I was a journalist. I left too early. I want back in and I'll start anywhere. And it's just by chance that there was actually a job going on the website, which is who I used to write for while I was on reception. There was a full-time job going there. Had a phone call, spoke to them, had an interview and got the job on the website. And I've been there ever since. I've been there for going on 4.5 years now.
Oh, that's mad.
Still work on the website and then I do sideline reporting as well. So when I took the job, I threw my hat in the ring for sideline reporting.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is very fortuitous. Like, you got to take your chances.
Absolutely.
You have to take your chances. If anything you learn today, you got to be a diehard Doggies fan. You got to take your chances.
You got to take your chances.
Always.
Because I remember thinking, like, I've got this great job that, like, I'm happy. I've got the work-life balance. But I remember there was this saying. It was like, oh, what if I... It was a meme. It was like, what if I fall? And then the next bit was like, oh, but what if you fly? Like, what if, you know? And I was like, well, I'm never going to know unless...
You have to take the risk.
Yeah, exactly.
If you sort of feel like you're stagnating, like, I'm with you, like, whatever you do for work, like I'll be honest, I get up to work thinking, oh, okay, cool, I like my job. But then when, you know, I'm doing the podcast, I come in, I'm
You're
energetic.
passionate.
It's a whole different, like, different level. It's a completely different level.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you've been at Fox NRL for 4 years. You've seen some things.
Yeah.
You've heard some things. You've spoken to people.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Fox NRL host?
I can't pick. I like them all. I love them all.
No. Don't give me this. They're all like my children thing.
I can't. I'm friends with them all. I can't.
You're not talking shit. You're just telling us who you prefer to listen to.
Both and Esther.
I love them all. I mean, like, I love Vonnie and Lara. Like, I think they both bring so much to the table.
Yeah,
like, they're
fantastic.
just ultimate professionals, genuine fans too. And I think, and that's who I kind of vibe with, are people that are genuine fans.
Lara's a big St. George fan.
Massive Dragons
Her
fan.
and her husband, wow.
Yeah. So and people that just get footy and have like grown up around it, and it's not a job for them. Like, they live and breathe it. Yeah. They're the people I like. Yeah, they're my type of people.
Like, we were saying this off air, but like, we were talking about hosts and stuff. I honestly think that Yvonne is the best host in rugby league.
Yeah.
Bar none. Like, you come at me, I'll die on this hill. When she talks to players, it's like she's so happy to be talking to these players. It's like, wow, I've got the opportunity to interview. Like, she was talking to, I think, Isaiah Katoa from the Dolphins when he performed very well. And just how happy she was for him and how excited she was to be interviewing him after his performance. I was like, it's very hard to find that in someone who's not so invested in their job.
Genuine.
Yeah.
Like, I think, I'm glad that someone that's not working in the media can see that because, like, I see it too. I look at some hosts and it looks...
It's a job for them.
It's a job and their happiness and excitement feels a bit... what's the right word? I don't want to say fake, but feels a bit
exaggerated.
Yeah,
forced.
Forced. But yeah, Vonnie and Lara's like, it's just so, it's natural and it's genuine. Vonnie has a ball, like, you can tell she's having a ball. Like,
she's always laughing.
Yeah,
she's always
it's
joking.
great, and you love it, right? As a viewer, it's more enjoyable when they're having fun.
100%.
Yeah,
and her insights as well into footy. It's not like she's just there because she laughs or whatever.
Yeah.
No, like, she has all the time. She's always asking such great questions.
Yeah.
The insights that she has,
Yeah.
the way she pushes back against like the other sort of.
and I think
hosts.
that comes from being a fan, because
100%.
if you're a genuine fan, you're asking questions that you want to know.
Yeah.
If you're not a genuine fan, you're asking questions that you think might work because you've got your journalist hat on, and that's what I was taught when I started doing sideline. Like, just ask questions that you want to know as a fan, and they're usually the ones you get the best answers from.
Yeah, it's so you're not going to tell us who your favorite is?
No.
All right, fair enough. I can't push you anymore. But just one more time, who's your favorite?
You can't.
All of them.
She's gotta love. She loves them all.
What about the commentators?
All of them.
No, there are levels to commentators. Come on,
Yeah.
like you get. like, if I was to say, who do you prefer, Voss or Rabs? You've got to be honest with this one.
Oh, well, Vossi, because I work with him. I've never got the chance to work with Rabs.
Did you say you prefer Vossi over Rabs?
Honestly, I only preferred 1990s Rabs. After that, I thought he
No.
I love Vossi.
Look,
how dare you?
I love Vossi.
How dare you, bro? Come on.
Vossi,
Rabs is the GOAT.
He is.
He was in the 1990s.
Listen, he recently did a Bluey episode that my daughter and I have watched probably 50 times about State of Origin.
I've watched that.
And I swear to God, every time I hear his voice, I get happy.
I'll say Rabs is, I reckon even Vossi would say Rabs is the GOAT. Like, 100% he's the GOAT.
I'm not saying he's...
But, like, as in, you know, I don't think I've ever met Rabs, but I've worked with Vossi.
Yeah.
So, naturally...
Is he cool to work with?
He's great to work with.
I reckon he'd be so cool to work with.
Yeah,
the one-liners he comes up with.
So, he was on... he was my commentator when I made my NRL sideline debut. It was final round of 2022. And, like, because I'd spent so many years listening to him as a fan and whatever, I remember when the moment he said, you know, let's go down to Darcie McDonald on the sideline. And I was like, I teared up. I had a lump in my throat because here's Vossi saying
amazing.
My name.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
honestly,
cool.
As a fan, like, I could just imagine, like Vossi saying, you know, we're just going to go to Abdul on the sideline. I was just like, what?
It's so cool.
Me?
It's so cool.
But you know what I liked about Vossi?
I love Vossi, by the way.
Yeah.
I love
Right now, I think he's the best commentator in rugby league, shortly followed by Ennis.
He is. I just want to say one thing. I love Rabs and I loved how very theatric he'd get and he had that booming voice.
Yeah.
But I just think like he overstayed probably about a decade.
No,
he did want to retire.
Calm down.
Yeah, and then his ongoing battles with field goal was just taking too much away from the game. But I'll tell you why I liked Vossi, because he would do side programs such as The Fan, if you remember.
The Fan was very good in the ground.
You know, I remember there was an episode of Lance Thompson, and I'll never forget that episode, you know, and then we lost Lance about 6 months later or something. So, you know, he goes, you know, around the grounds on the footy show. He's just, you know.
He's a fan.
I
think he's a Canberra fan as well.
I actually don't know who
he
supports.
Yeah, he's a Canberra.
I'm so glad he left Channel 9. Like, you know, I think that Channel 9...
they got a plethora of stars. I just think Fox Sports does way more in terms of programs. Yeah, they do easily.
Absolutely.
You know, and, you know, they've Fox Sports. Fox, I'll give them credit. They have helped grow the game at grassroots level, at corporate level, at, you know, anywhere.
I mean, they still do have some people that I don't understand how they get a job in commentating, but I won't say anything in front of you. I won't say anything in front of you, but yeah, it can't be perfect. So
I will say it's a tough gig. It is a tough gig. Like, I used to sit back and I used to watch before I ever did television.
Yeah,
I'd be like, how hard can it? Yeah,
you're on live
when
TV.
you're on live television, and I'll tell you, I heard Billy Slater say this once, and he said there is, I think it was an article that NRL.com did, and it was about, they interviewed a whole heap of people that work in media, and there was a line from Billy Slater, and it stuck with me, and it makes me feel really proud of, you know, that I'm getting the hang of it. He said there's no lonelier place in this world than being on live television and forgetting what you're going to say and having a blank moment. That's Billy Slater, who's played fullback, probably the loneliest position there is on the field at the highest of levels. And if he's
probably the best ever,
right? Yeah. And if he's saying that, that just tells you how bloody hard it is. And it is, like, you'll see commentators will cop it for making a mistake or whatever. But when that light is on and you're on air, I can't tell you, I've had live crosses before, and 20 seconds before, I'll forget my name. Like, who's the Bulldogs coach? Wow. I don't know. Like, the most basic stuff, it just, something comes over you.
And don't forget, you're in the eye of the public. So you walk down that street, you know.
Yeah.
And you can't take back what you say.
That's right.
You can write an article and there's an error, you can go back and change it. You're on live television. There's nothing. It's not produced.
Especially 2024.
Your private life's gone out the window.
Everything becomes a meme. And I would imagine it's even more difficult as a woman.
Yeah.
Like, people be like, oh, look at her, she's this, or, you know, why is her hair like that? Or, you know, and I just think, bro, like for me, it's like, at the end of the day, you know, I want to hear what she has to say about footy. I'm watching a game. I'm not here to be a pervert. You know what I mean? Let me watch the fucking game.
I'm just here to, like, oh, man, I hope we get a mad insight today. That's what I'm looking for.
And that's the thing. Like, I put a lot of pressure on myself when I do sideline. I get very, very nervous, and I do a lot of prep, probably too much prep. But I do it because I think, as a female, being a sideline commentator is trickier, because as a male, I think they can get away with more just having an opinion on how that, what a great pass from blah, blah. They can have an opinion, and it just kind of, it's
to pass it off as being an expert because they're a sideline commentator.
Yeah. But then as a female, I don't think anyone wants to hear my opinion. So I feel like I need to justify. If I have an opinion, I need to justify it and I need to go that extra mile. And it probably just is an insecurity, but it is tricky being a female.
I can only, but like, I'll be honest with you. Like a lot of the fans that I interact with on Twitter, on Insta, even on the kennel forums, it's like a lot of people feel like, no, we actually value sideline commentators, male or female. It doesn't really matter. Like her opinion, if she's there, there's a reason she's there, and her opinion. Like we do want to hear what you have to say. And that I genuinely like. You get some smart ass idiot who wants to be, stupid sexist or say something stupid because you're a female. But like even with female referees, right? It's like, no, hang on a second. They've had a bad performance. That's okay, but in general, like it's good to see the rugby league heading in that direction, in one way or another. So it's like, I would say from us fans watching you, for example, was like I was like, I'm interested to see what what Darcie has to say. Yeah, because you know what, you're on the sideline, and is there a HIA that she can give us information about? So it's like, you sometimes you just have to block out the.
Yeah.
I honestly, like I said before, if I get a male. It's like, all right, but then to put a female there, I was like, yes, we're getting something completely different.
Refreshing, right?
It's like I'm getting the other side now. It's just like, hang on to it now. Bang.
Yeah.
That's what I like to see.
Different voices.
Yeah, different voices.
Speaking of different voices, I want to ask you about journalism in rugby league, not in Fox, just in general.
Yes.
Right? There are some, as Dibbo calls them, mental midgets in rugby league journalism.
Sorry.
Yes.
Who I feel like aren't really in it for the betterment of the game, aren't in it to report on the game. They use it as an avenue to fulfill vendettas or to mudsling or to honestly try and bring clubs down. Like, I look at the Tigers and I think they're so constantly targeted by negative media again and again. It's because it drives clicks, right? Yeah. And I think, for example, Shane Richardson was just made CEO. Hasn't really done anything wrong.
How did he get a negative article written about him?
He had multiple negative arguments written about the Tigers putting him as CEO, right? So I don't want to ask you about the article itself, but I'm asking, I want to know, what are your thoughts on sort of the state of rugby league journalism, and what do you think needs to happen for it to improve as the game continues to grow and improve?
Well, yeah.
I know you have to be very careful. That's okay.
No, it's fine. I love the question because it's so funny because I once upon a time was the fan on the other side of the fence and not too long ago, right? Yeah. And now that I work in digital journalism is the game changer, right? Like that's what's clickbaity. Like it's the digital world is next level. And now that I work in it, it's opened my eyes up to so many things. And I always, I've had this conversation with my mum all the time because my mum will be like, the media hates the Bulldogs and
I can relate.
And I say to her, Mum, I promise you, it is not, it's not personal. Yeah. It's not, you're as a fan.
Oh.
It's not. Anyways. I'll promise you. I'll explain it to you as.
Yeah, let's hear this.
Okay,
dumb it down.
So, no, not dumb it down.
Let's hear it. I was about to say, I'd pick up the paper and see, for example, Daily Telegraph's known to be a tabloid, and we'd have Buzz, and for example, I think his sparring buddy was Carol. What was her name? Wilson, yeah, Rebecca Carol Wilson. Rebecca Wilson. Oh, yeah. She's no longer with us, but and just be involved. Sometimes they really exaggerate stuff, or that, they write an article against my club or or one of our players.
Yes,
I was like, that is BS, and and I was just have a vendetta against them and shut it. And sometimes there has been times where they were fibbing, or exaggerating.
No doubt, there are people in this industry that do sometimes probably write things with personal agendas. I don't know, but I assume there are probably sometimes. But the way I try to explain it is as a fan, you're going to read every single story, no matter how big, no matter how insignificant it is. You're going to read every single one. You're going to probably scroll past
some I do
all the other stories, unless it's Jason Demetriou sacked, right? Unless it's a big story, you're probably going to scroll past it. So subconsciously, you're thinking, all I'm saying are Bulldog stories. And I'm not seeing any other teams that are being negatively written about. But I promise you, on the other side, there are teams that every team gets negative articles written about it. And it's just that subconsciously you think that it's targeted to your club because
we only care about
you're
those articles.
only really reading those ones and you're scrolling past the others. But also in terms of the digital world, readers actually have the power. So if you stop clicking on West Tigers articles, the powers that be in the digital newsroom won't waste time, energy, resources on writing West Tigers articles. So
power to the people.
Yeah, the power is in the reader's hands. And I'll give you an insight into why it sometimes feels like a pile-on. So you would have noticed with the Jason Demetriou story, it's the biggest story
right now, yeah,
in rugby league. Yeah. So there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of eyes. People are Googling Jason Demetriou. So digital mastheads are wanting to tap into that search, you know. So they're going to try and create as many stories as possible that's using the Jason Demetriou sacked search.
Right.
So that means you'll get your Jason Demetriou sacked story. That's just the beginning. Then you're going to get a story about, you know, who are the candidates that could replace him. Then you're going to get a story on, Wayne Bennett's the front runner. Then you're going to get a story on, okay, well, Wayne Bennett's the front runner. What players could he lure to the club? Then you're going to get, okay, well, you know, what's the Rabbitohs' issues? Let's call the next player and get their opinion. It's all tapping into that interest because everyone's Googling at the moment, Jason Demetriou sacked.
So the Google Trends dictates exactly how they're going, or what articles they're going to be writing.
Well, websites have, like, they track all day. They're looking at the numbers and seeing what people are reading, and then they're going to tap into that, lean into that, and create more content into what people are reading. So that's why it could feel like it's a pile-on. So if there's a big story happening at the West Tigers, it feels like it's a pile-on because the websites are thinking, okay, well, this is where the interest is at the moment. This is where the readers are going. We need to try and milk that as much as we can. So let's try and get as many stories, Tigers stories out as we can, whether it be calling an ex-player. Let's do a roster, you know, cut through the roster. Let's look at, you know, the flow-on effect of this decision. Like,
so... But it was never about the accuracy. It's about the topic.
Well, I don't think it really... But I want to... investigate that a little bit, right?
That's
so
good.
You say it's power to the people, and sometimes it is. Like I don't disagree that, especially in the digital age, it is.
Yeah.
But I also think that there are certain, not just exaggerations, but there are certain stories written in particular ways, and the clickbaity titles sort of also not force, but you really attract the person to click regardless, and so it becomes like the chicken and egg situation.
Totally.
Is it power to the people? Is it power to them? Who like, is it them using the West Tigers because they've been so bad for so long, or you know, is there a lot of interest? Because like you look at it and you say, I don't think there's more interest in the West Tigers than, say, for example, the Broncos or the Bulldogs, but why is it and I've actually looked it up. It's disproportionately very bad against the Tigers. Like, even when the Bulldogs are at their worst, the Tigers still somehow managed to have more articles written about how bad they are than the Bulldogs.
People are clicking on them. People are clicking on negative West Tigers stories. Like, I know for the Fox website, you know, Broncos stories always rate well because it's that big fan base. Bulldog stories rate well. Rabbitohs stories rate well.
Big fan base.
Yeah. And West Tigers stories really rate well. And as well, I heard one journalist once said to me, rugby league fans love the drama. They hate to admit it. So negative stories rate big time. I remember writing a story one day. I don't know if you remember John Novak, who used to work under Des at the Bulldogs he was the mindset coach.
Oh, yes.
And he went over to Manly with Des, and he's a great character. And I wrote a story about his work that he was doing with Manly, and it was taking, you know, weeks of research. You know, we had a lot of off the record phone calls just to build that relationship and that trust. And then I, you know, got him on the record, and I spent hours on this story, and it barely flicked. Like, it barely got numbers, but we could just do a quick story within 20 minutes about a player saying something dumb on a podcast, and it would blow up.
Yeah.
So that's just, people love drama. They just don't want to admit.
Look, I think people love drama, not just in rugby league, but in life.
Oh,
like,
totally.
You know,
I love reality television because of the drama.
Who remembers that barbecue down in Show Hub?
George barbecue.
Absolutely.
Wasn't that a story?
Oh my God. So it's interesting. You're talking. It may seem like a pile-on, but you know, the media likes to talk about mental health. So are there policies or governance around the types of stories that you write, and maybe the volume of stories written about a particular player, for example? Like, there's a particular Bulldogs player in the media right now that's going through that, right? So is there any governing rule, policy, or governance mechanism that controls that, so as to perhaps not drive someone who may be suffering from or push someone's mental health to the position where they could potentially harm themselves or do something.
Not to my knowledge. There's nothing, no policy unless, but I'm not an editor. I'm not a digital editor. So there could be something that I'm just not aware of.
Right.
But yeah, mental health is huge. And I'd like to think, well, this is the thing, like in journalism, there are editors and the editors have the final say.
Yeah.
And editors can be ruthless because it's not their name a lot of the time that are going on articles. So you'll see, like, there have been... I remember interviewing Paul Gallen once, and he was like, oh, you work for Fox Sports or whatever. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, you need to be careful because, they change the head. He's like, I know it's not the journalist, but the headlines get changed, but it's your name. And yeah, at the end of the day, the buck stops with the editor.
Yeah.
So sometimes as well in the digital newsroom, the demand can be quite extreme. And sometimes you'll be thrown a story from your boss that you don't want to write, but you have to do. So that's why, like, if I could give anyone advice on Twitter, try to ease up a little bit on some, the big dog journos, they have free reign. They write what they want to write. But the lesser one, the lower down ones, sometimes they might be given a story or given an idea and they don't really have the leeway to push back.
Oh, right.
And, it's there. And the mental health thing goes both ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's
that's a good point. Actually.
Yeah, it's really tough working as a journalist. It's a thankless job because you can be given. I've done some sideline reporting before, and my producer has told me I need to ask a certain question to a certain player. I might not be comfortable with it, but I've got to do it.
Wow.
And Twitter has got and I'll repeat again, the bottom of the barrel types, and there is really some putrid people on there.
It's funny. I did we did like a kind of a broader example is at Fox. We kind of do a lot of like report cards, mid-season report cards.
Yeah.
They're just great little like content things that get clicks. Like people are viewing them. They want to see like. Fans take it so personally. I just want to say as well, a bunch of journos in a building at Fox Sports giving your team a C does not mean they're not going to go on and play finals.
Like, it's their opinion.
Do not take it personally.
I know.
But do you know what's interesting is it's almost like you're saying not to take it personally, but Fox wants people to take it personally. I think that's the truth.
Yeah, true.
They want people to be so rolled up about it.
Maybe.
That's why they're the leading.
But I gave the Tigers, I don't know, it must have been a C or something, and I had a Tigers.
I tipped them for the spoon.
I had a Tigers fan go out of their way to find me on Instagram and send me a message at 2 a.m. to tell me that my rating was wrong.
But I think there's some like that is they're either drunk or
they're sickos. There is mental midgets.
Mental health. Let's not go crazy.
UFC fans and rugby league fans are in the same cloth where you go to cut it.
Look,
they're both mental midgets.
I've been called sewerage before. Like this is what I mean. Like players.
I don't mean to laugh at that, but that's like
there's a theme on Twitter, especially. If there is a pylon on a player, fans will come to their defense and say, enough, mental health. If there's a pylon on a journalist, no one comes to their defense.
Yeah, it's a stigma that they...
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get it out.
I feel like journalists have done that to themselves. Or the editors maybe. Or maybe it's the editors that
but I fall into that journalism bracket. Does that mean I warrant... Because other journalists have been ridiculous, does that mean I fall into that bucket?
That's a good point, but I think everybody likes you.
Because look, she...
Most people do anyway. Honestly, I've gone through a lot of your stuff. Like... Just in doing research and stuff, most of it, like I would say, a big portion of stuff, human. Very positive responses.
Yeah, people have been kind to me. There's been times I remember writing a story a couple of years ago, and I was in tears by the things that people were throwing at me on Twitter. I wrote a story about I rated, and I put days of work into it. I wrote a story rating the depth of every club's roster, and I didn't just look at the top 30. I was looking at their New South Wales Cup and Queensland Cup feeder squads and everything, their train and trial players, and I analysed what positions they're lacking in. And I remember I put the Storm in like the red red bit, like trouble.
Yeah.
You know? And the pylon I got.
They six. Oh,
and
anyway.
you know what happened? You know what went on to go happen that year? They had to go and get loan players because their depth wasn't good enough. So I was on the damn money, and I should have retweeted it and be like, come on. But at the time, everyone piled on me because it was like, how dare you? Like, what an idiot to criticize the Storm's roster. Like, it's the Storm, you know what I mean? And the pylon was ridiculous. Like, this is my opinion. I am paid to have an opinion and write these types of stories. If you don't like it, go and get a job at a website then, and you write something, a counter version then. Like,
exactly, on the money. And just on that, with mental health, how about you, gents? Basically, treat yourselves to a bit of self-love. We do have one of our sponsors, the lovely Tara from Skin and Body Clinic Sydney. Basically, she's got a promotion running in conjunction with the kennel. We will put up the details also at the end of the podcast. So if you basically mention the kennel, put in the code the kennel, you get 20% off. You know, it's not just for the men, it's also for the ladies. But for the men, she's got a nice promotion going, such as teeth whitening. You'll get 20% off. Candela hair laser removal. I know that's very popular with the guys these days. She's also got facials and hydrofacials. So, you know, you get a lot of dead skin and I guess whiteheads and blackheads around the face. 20% off. Treat yourself to a bit of self-love. You know, it helps with basically how you feel. I mean, I got my whites, if you can see them there, basically done recently. I could have got them for a lighter shade, but I just didn't want my teeth to look like the keynotes on the grand piano. So you can go lighter shades for you if you like. And great service.
Yeah.
I just want to say I really appreciate you being so generous with your time and your answers. It's just I don't even know how long this has been. It's just been such a mad discussion.
I can talk underwater.
Really,
this is awesome.
Really appreciate it. I only got a few more questions.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, what did you think about the NRL Vegas expedition?
Loved it.
Yeah.
So I got to go with Fox for the website.
That's mad.
It was awesome. I mean, I worked like 12 hours every day, and yeah, I think
you're the ultimate employee.
Yeah, I reckon I only had 4 margaritas the entire week. That gives you insight into how much I was working. But it was awesome. It was really cool, and I sat on the sideline for the game. And then one of my jobs requested from my bosses was to go and interview some American fans and get their reaction. And their reaction was sick. Like they were all, they loved it. They thought like the speed of the game, the physicality obviously because there's no helmets and pads and stuff. They loved it and they said we'll be back 100% next year. So I thought it went really well. Like, the games were good. The lead up was great. Like the clubs were pretty good with the media and the coaches were really good with the media. They understood that we were there as a job. There wasn't drama, and the experience of everyone staying, when everyone kind of, the clubs were all over the place at first, and then when everyone came to Vegas, we all stayed in Resorts World. And it was wild. It was like being on a school excursion. When you see people you'd go on your school
from Australia,
and you go on a school excursion and you see like your teacher outside of schooling hours, school like camp, and you see them at
mad.
At the buying a drink or whatever. It was like that. Like I'm seeing these CEOs that I've only known in a professional at the pokies or something like that, or players having a meal, and you just it could be like 11 o'clock at night, and you're going down to the convenience store at the reception to get a bottle of water and a late night snack or something, and there's these big name players, and it was so cool. Like everywhere you walked, you ran into someone rugby league. It was awesome. I walked down the strip and there was jerseys, and people knew about it too. My Uber drivers knew about it, and I think it's only going to get,
I reckon, bigger and bigger.
Bigger and better.
4 new teams every year.
100% bigger.
Even if we get 30,000 people going from here, I don't care.
What I would love to see, and you probably won't like it, but I think they should bring in the NFL Cheerleaders as a halftime act, because they are they're a big deal.
Yeah, Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and
they got the best cheerleaders.
They are they're a big part of the NFL, and I think fans rugby league fans would actually get a kick out of watching NFL cheerleaders. Yeah. I got to go into during captain's run at Allegiant Stadium, after I did all my work and everything, and I had this all access pass, and I just went exploring the stadium, and I stumbled across the Cheerleaders change room, and it was next level, like better than the men's change rooms here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they had...
What a stadium, though.
You walked in and they had like a little museum. So they had on the side all these mannequins, and they had all the costumes that they've ever had from the very beginning, from when they originated all the way through.
Nuts.
And then they had little plaques on the wall from every like 5 years or so, with a little blurb about the year.
Wow.
They had some pom-poms like framed, and then they had like an honor roll of all the like cheerleaders of the year. That was just the museum. Then you go through these big glass doors, and then all the girls had like their own locker with the makeup, beauty lights and their names on there.
Oh, that's mad.
It was amazing. And as a former cheerleader, I was like, oh.
They probably paid more than rugby league players.
But you know what's so funny? Because we didn't get to go into the Las Vegas Raiders sheds. They were blocked off. So the players, they were just in these other sheds. So like the Manly Broncos,
Right,
they were in other sheds.
Okay.
Their sheds were worse than the Cheerleaders.
Oh,
they were just regular sheds,
yeah.
They would have been better off in the Cheerleaders
Yeah,
sheds
the
with their own
cheerleaders
little
sheds.
lockers.
Yeah, fair enough. Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. And they've got a Allegiant Stadium's got a I can't remember what it's called, but they've got like a bar
Right.
at ground level, and you can have you walk in and it looks like a nightclub, and then they've got booths, and it's right behind the goalposts. And I
actually saw that's where Peter Valandis and Andrew Abdo and some of the CEOs were sitting, and you can see them. And
God.
It was like the perfect place. It was like it was
incredible.
It was like a man cave. To watch.
I walked in there on the captain's run when they were setting it all up, and I got some photos, obviously, sitting in the booths, and I've got photos of the menus, and there was like bottles of champagne for like tens of thousands of dollars on the menu.
Wow.
And I came across a Super Bowl wristband.
Wow.
So I took that home with me
of
as
course you
a
would.
souvenir.
Of course you would.
But I Googled it, and apparently to get a seat, one of those booths in the Super Bowl was $1 million.
No
$1 million.
No
Yeah.
surprises.
Yeah.
Wow, so it's the
Think about it.
billionaires row.
350 million people for a 60,000 seater stadium.
Yeah, but that stadium is special.
It
Like,
is amazing.
You could see it even on TV, honestly.
Honestly, if the Bulldogs do it, you have to go.
Oh, I want to go when my side
You
goes. Yeah,
have to go.
We'll take the podcast
You
there. We'll do it
have
from
to,
Las Vegas.
because the whole week is great. The clubs put on like things during the week to keep fans, engaged.
Yeah.
And like I know the Roosters, for example, at the captain's run, they must have had like a corporate package that you could have bought, and they had these fans were down on the field at captain's run, and they got to get photos on the field at Allegiant Stadium and do a tour of the stadium. But the Manly had like a function the night before at one of the hotels or something.
This has to become a fixture every year.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, any fan that's listening, like when your club makes it, go. Like it is, it's fun.
Let's see who's going next year. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'll take Canterbury. They're a more important club, better fan base.
No, they're not. The Dogs won't go for the next couple of years.
I'd take them.
Adam was
They've got a
saying
big fan
that
base.
They don't want to go to Las Vegas until Adam Drusey was saying that they don't want to go to Las Vegas until the team itself is ready to go.
Oh, okay. They might be ready next year.
Hey man,
it could be it might.
It's got to be within the next few years, regardless.
A club, but I'd love to see the Warriors there.
Oh, the
Imagine
Warriors
up
would be
the Wars
fantastic.
movement.
Oh my
Vegas.
god! But they've applied to be them and the Panthers. Two of the four.
That's good. That's
Coming
two good
into this
sides.
season, my 4 picks. It's now changed since the Eels form, but my 4 picks were I wanted to see the Eels and Panthers play each other because they have always been
enemies.
they
in
are
the grand final. You mean?
No, to Vegas.
Oh,
so,
to
Vegas.
Yeah,
I wanted to
them.
see them two play each other
Warriors,
in one of the
Melbourne?
games. Warriors and Storm. They're the two. They're the
No,
4
I like
teams
that.
I wanted to go,
She's hit
and
the nail on
those
the head.
two. But now with the Eels, and,
Let them go. I don't want them going with those, please.
So all right. So that's actually the next question I was going to ask you. What's your top 4 for this year? And who do you think is going to take out the grand final?
my top 4 in like specific order, or
Please.
Oh god.
Yeah, that's not.
I think Penrith will probably win the minor premiership.
They're so good.
I think the Broncos will be second. I can see the Storm being there.
Yep.
Yeah, always. Cronulla, maybe? I know they've had an easy run, but they've racked up the wins.
I don't know. Yeah, I could probably see Cronulla making the 4, if not. I still have faith in the Warriors. I do.
I do too.
Yeah, I think they're one of the clubs that I know they had that loss to the Titans.
Man. They got roughened up against St. George.
But I think they're the type of squad, and Andrew Webster's the type of coach that would have taken that loss really personally. So it could trigger something. But I looked at their team and they've only gotten stronger. Yeah, they've added Roger. Right. Adam Van Blake has a lot to play for this year.
He's playing good.
Yeah, Chanel Harris-Tavita's come back. They've only added. They haven't lost anything. So I think they could make the 4. My premiers, I think the Broncos.
Interesting. Broncos.
Yeah.
Good shout. I know they've lost Flegler and Herbie, but
I think they've been they've pushed through this period with injuries, and they've still looked really dangerous. And I think there's that saying, you've got to lose one to win one. Even the Panthers players say it's true.
2020.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think I knew that they were going to go well last year because I interviewed them in January 2023 at a preseason Fox League shoot thing, and I noticed how I went to a lot of clubs, and usually in the preseason in January, everyone's switched on, but it's all very lighthearted. Yeah. They were very serious, very, very, very serious, and they could not do a minute over the interview because they needed to go do video, and you cannot be late for video. It was very strict, and I came out of that thinking, oof, they're burning from that 2022 season where they capitulated and fell out of the 8. I thought they're burning. So I could only imagine how much they're burning after losing a grand final.
Honestly, I still think the Panthers.
They have to be the favourites.
I reckon they'll do the 4-peat.
Yeah, the favourites.
Very much. They very well could. It would probably be. I'd love to see Broncos-Panthers grand final again, a rematch.
I actually think I would love to see a Penrith Warriors grand final.
Ooh, that would be
Penrith
good.
Warriors, or even a Warriors Melbourne.
I don't think the Warriors are going to pose a challenge to the Panthers.
Imagine the fans if the Warriors made the grand final.
Our second team, the Kennel Podcast second team, is the Warriors.
I love 100%. The Warriors. The players, I interviewed a whole heap of them in the preseason, and they're just, I love them. Sean Johnson is a legend.
Yeah. I put a post up on Twitter about a week ago. I said this podcast is about to become the Sean Johnson podcast. Love him. Yeah.
Love him. He's so good.
I love, my personal favourite there is Roger. I just think he's freakish footwork. His father plays.
Andrew Webster too. Yeah. Andrew Webster's a legend.
And look, final question. Any advice for young ladies out there wanting to get involved in the sport in any capacity?
Yeah. I think you've got to have a thick skin, no doubt. And I think that's just sport in general, whether you're an athlete, whether you're in media, whether you're, everyone wants to work in sport, right? It's what a cool gig. So it's competitive. So have a thick skin, be passionate about what you do. Know that you really love it because, and this applies for male, females, because like I said, especially in media, it's a thankless job and there's no weekends, no long weekends. You don't have a social life. So you really got to love what you do. Be prepared to be patient. You got to earn your stripes. A lot of people want to work in sport. So you got to get experience in any form that you can. And I think as well, most importantly, lead with integrity, stay true to yourself. And because I think the good people, I think fans can see who are the good people and who are not genuine. So I think just back yourself and lead with integrity is probably the most important thing.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's great advice. And look, to any young ladies or boys out there as well that are looking to get into rugby league, I think, Darcie just gave us some great advice. Look, a big Kennel thank you for your time, for the generosity that you've shown us this evening, just with your the answers that you've given us, the wonderful yarns that you've spun. Honestly, it's as I say, it's just been such a wonderful.
I haven't told you that 2014 story.
Yeah,
Should
let's
I
hear
tell you
it?
it?
I want to hear it.
It's a good one to finish on. Okay, so 2014, it was against, I think it was the semi-final against Manly.
Yep.
It was at the old Allianz Stadium.
Yep.
When it comes to finals, I think the clubs don't have authority over the game day entertainment. It's the NRL takes over. So the NRL, you get both cheer squads in. For some reason, there was only three of us there, and it was in the year that we weren't cheerleaders. We were brand ambassadors, so we weren't dancing. There was myself and 2 other girls that went, and we didn't have, because it wasn't a club home game, it was an NRL game, we didn't really have anyone bossing us around or anything. We had free reign pretty much. Our job was to walk around with the mascot. Gets to like the close to the end of the game. The other two girls weren't massive Bulldogs fans. They wanted to beat the traffic and they left. And it was just me that was left. And I was like, well, I'm not going to walk around the ground by myself, am I? So I went and sat in the injured players box. And so I'm sitting with the players, right? Like, how good's this, riding the emotions? And I get a message from the social media girl that worked at the Dogs at the time. It was like, hey, you know, they're in the crowd because they're not running the game. You know, if we win, can you run over to the players and get some snaps of them like hugging and everything?
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, 100%. So I think Trent Hodkinson, he might have kicked a field goal. Yeah,
So
it
was 17 all at the time.
Like jumping up and down. I was like, oh shit, I got to get over to because it was on the other side of the field where
they ran
where they
towards
were.
the sideline.
Yes, because where everyone was, all the fans were sitting.
It was 17 all.
So I was like, oh my God, I've got to get over there, but I can't run. Didn't want to run across the field because I didn't know if that was allowed. The security were going to tackle me. So I went around the field and I'm walking. And I'm thinking, I've got to get there quick. So I start running. And then all the fans on the fence put their hands out. And I end up doing a lap of honour because I did one high five. And everyone came down to the fence. I did half the field of Allianz Stadium running around, high-fiving like as if I kicked the field goal.
Jeez.
It was the best thing ever. And there was no one. I was just, after I got the snaps, I was like, there's nothing to do. Like, I've got nowhere to be. I just stood there on the field watching them celebrate.
That is awesome.
And then with Allianz Stadium, you walk off the field, you pretty much, with the old one, you'd walk off the field up the tunnel and you're out. And I just put my hands in my pockets in my jacket and just waddled off.
Yeah.
Like, it was hectic.
That's a fantastic story to end
I knew
on.
you'd like
Thank
it.
you so much for sharing. That
You're
was
welcome.
Great. This session has been great. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
You know, really, really appreciate it. And, you know, would love to, you know, if the Doggies do well further in the season, love to have you on again.
Let's
just to
do it
continue
again.
talking Dogs. Thank you so much for thanking. Guys, if you see this, please leave some messages for Darcie. I'm sure she'll read the comments.
I will.
You know, just, you know, and if you've enjoyed it, you know, reach out to her on Twitter. You know, follow her. I'll have all the links in the description. And if you come here and you don't subscribe, please be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Insta. Do all the good stuff. Thank you so much, and I hope your team does well, except the Eels. Have a good one.
Adios.